Hi guys, welcome back to 30 Days to Your First Website Design, a TutsPlus premium course. I'm Ian Yates and today we're going to quickly implement Google Analytics. We'll begin as always by taking a quick look at what we're going to cover in this video. Firstly, we'll look at implementing Google Analytics before we take a look at some of the basic usage, and then I'm going to suggest some further reading and set a very simple task. Now, Google Analytics is a very useful tool, and in the last few years it's become common practice to implement it in any site. There are alternative tools for tracking your traffic, but Google Analytics is free, it's hugely capable, and it's growing all the time. Let's quickly go to our site and implement Google Analytics as we go. Now here we have our site open in Coda. I did want to just mention a couple of changes I've made before we jump into Analytics. Last time, you remember, I cleaned up a little bit of the code. I've since condensed some of the lines just to trim things down a little bit, but not an awful lot has happened in the HTML markup. However, in our CSS file, by our ClearFix group of rules, I did have a couple of lines which were Internet Explorer specific. They were these little hacks here for IE6 and IE7. With no need to have those in our main style sheet. They're just padding things out unnecessarily, so I've stuck those in our specific style sheet for Internet Explorer. Now if we open up Chrome, you'll see that I've made a couple of changes to the design itself just to bring it totally up to date with our PSD. I brought our menu items for our primary navigation down to be in line horizontally with our logo there. I've added a little more spacing around these images and added this horizontal border on top of our section there. And lastly, there is this vertical line in between our map and our form. That takes everything totally up to date. The design, the markup, the CSS, it's all completely done and dusted. So now let's go over to Google Analytics and grab some tracking code. Now in order to set yourself up with Analytics, you're going to need a Google account. Assuming you have that, you can then just go and enter Google Analytics and add as many domains as you like, pretty much. Assuming you stay within certain traffic boundaries, you won't have to pay anything either. Those boundaries are fairly high, so I wouldn't worry about those. Now we're setting up a new profile here. I'm just going to use our fictional domain name here. So I'm going to add that as a URL, as a new domain. In principle, we're in Australia, in Melbourne, so having set up our location and our time zone, we click on Finish. Simple as that. Now we're presented with some tracking code. You'll notice we have our unique identifier here, and that's also present in our code. And we're being told that the tracking hasn't been installed. This simply means that we haven't put the code within our markup. So let's grab that, Command and C to copy it, and then we'll move over to Coda and put it in our index.html. Now it's recommended you put it in your head. You could also put it down in the footer, just like we have done with our other JavaScript bits and bobs. You remember the reason for doing that was to aid our page loading time. And that would in fact continue along that sort of theory if we were to add our code here. But Google Analytics do recommend you stick it within your head tags just before your closing head there. Let's just push that over. The reason being that there is a chance, just comment that so I know where we are. There is a chance people will enter your page and leave before the whole page has had time to properly render. That would mean that your Google Analytics tracking code doesn't have time to register the page visit. Putting it in your head does increase that chance. So we'll save that, I'll push that to the web, and that's then done. So it will take quite a bit of time for that to register, 24 hours or so. It will keep checking, and then at a certain point you'll be rewarded with a nice green tick there to show that your tracking has been installed. Once that's the case, you can then start analysing your metrics, which you'll be presented with on a dashboard similar to this. Now you can clearly see your visitor numbers, you can see your page views, you can see your bounce rate, for example. You remember we discussed that earlier in the series. You can see the locations of your users and all sorts of things. Now it's all very well to observe your visitor numbers rising and falling like this, but the true value is in understanding why your site behaves as it does and reacting upon that. You can use notations, for example. Let's add a little notation to the 26th of September there. We'll say it's my birthday. It's not true, but we'll put that in anyway. That could be a significant influence on things, you never know. That's just one such example. You can observe the most active times of the day. Let's have a look at visits here, and then we'll change the metric by hourly. There we go. We can see at what time of the day the most activity occurs. You can lay out funnels, for example, and goals. You remember we talked about those as well. Let's just have a quick look in goals here. I haven't actually set any up, so that's not remotely exciting. But where have we got funnel visualization? You can see funnels there as well. Now, funnels are routes through your site which observe how effectively people navigate to the goals that you set out. Now, reacting to the data and improving your site as a result is the true value to implementing Google Analytics. There's so much information available, but the first hurdle is, of course, implementing it and collecting the data. Okay, it's time for some further reading. I've mentioned this one before, but actually that was all the way at the beginning of the series, and it applies equally well on this occasion. A Beginner's Guide to Successful Conversion looks in more detail at setting up and analysing goals and funnels within Google Analytics. Now, I'd like you now to sign up for an Analytics account if you don't already have one, and implement Google Analytics on your site. Okay, that just about wraps things up. I'm Ian Yates, and from all of us at Tuts Plus, thanks for watching.